The fire had nearly gone out when I heard the knock. Not the soft kind you expect from a neighbor. This was urgent, desperate. Fists pounding against the door like they were trying to break through bone. I hadn't seen another soul in over 10 years, not since I buried the last one who mattered. I didn't move at first, just stared at the door like it was some animal waiting to pounce. The wind howled outside, rattling the shutters. Snow slammed against the windows in heavy sheets, turning the cabin into a coffin wrapped in white. The knock came again, louder, followed by a voice I hadn't heard in years. A woman's voice, cracked from cold and fear. "Please, someone, please." I grabbed the rifle from beside my chair, out of habit more than intention. But I didn't lift it. Not yet. Another voice, younger this time. "We're not here to hurt you. We're just trying to live." I stood, heart pounding, unsure if I was about to save someone, or damn myself again. Because no one comes up this mountain by accident. And nothing good ever knocks after dark. I didn't come to this mountain to live. I came here to disappear. 10 winters ago, I loaded up a mule with just enough to survive and rode until the land stopped following roads. I found this old logging cabin buried in the hills, falling apart, half covered in moss and silence. It was perfect. I fixed it up slowly. No electricity, no neighbors, no maps pointing to it. Just me, the wind, and sometimes a fox or two. I trapped, chopped wood, boiled snow to drink. I didn't need much. I didn't want much. People stopped meaning safety to me a long time ago. There was a time I wore a wedding band. There was a time I read stories by the fire and laughed when small feet ran across the porch. That time died with a fire and a set of footprints that never came back. I don't speak her name anymore. Haven't said it out loud in years. Every night I check the door twice. Every morning I walk the ridge and scan for smoke that doesn't belong. Old habits from a different life. The kind that never truly lets you go. Sometimes I talk to the fire. Or the wind. Or to the photo I keep wrapped in cloth in a drawer I never open unless it's raining hard enough to cover my tears. They don't talk back. But they listen. Out here I thought I could bury the world. Thought it wouldn't find me if I stayed quiet enough. But that knock changed everything. That knock reminded me the past doesn't stay buried. It just waits for the snow to melt. And tonight something was starting to thaw. The third knock was weaker. Slower. Like whoever was out there had run out of strength, or hope. I stepped toward the door, boots thudding against the old floorboards. My fingers brushed the lock but didn't open it yet. Not until I peered through the narrow gap in the shutters. Snow whipped across the porch in thick waves, but I could see the figure, just one at first. A woman, bareheaded. Her clothes soaked and torn. She swayed on her feet, gripping something bundled in her arms. Then from the dark behind her, movement, shadows shifting. More of them. I counted 6, no 7, maybe more. Women. All of them. Some limping, some carrying others, one nearly crawling. Faces streaked with mud and fear. A girl no older than 16 cradled a bundle to her chest. I could hear a faint whimper, too soft to be the wind. A baby, I realized. A child alive in this storm. I hesitated. The old me would have thrown the bar, told them to go back. Said it wasn't my problem. But that man had died in his sleep somewhere between the 3rd and 5th winter. And this wasn't just a knock. It was a cry for help from people the world had clearly forgotten. I unlatched the door. It groaned as I pulled it open, snow blowing inside like ghosts returning home. The first woman looked up, eyes glassy, her lips cracked. She didn't speak. She just nodded, once, and stepped aside to let the others pass. They entered like shadows. Not a word. Just wet footsteps and the heavy breath of survival. The heat from the fire hit them like a wall, and 2 collapsed to their knees, sobbing. The last woman through the door turned before I could close it. Her voice was hoarse, almost broken. "There are more behind. Still coming. We tried to get everyone out before he found us." One word. But it changed everything. I slid the bar back into place, heart hammering. Who was he? And how far behind was he? I'd heard that kind of fear before. The kind that burrows under your skin and stays there. The cabin was silent except for the crackle of the fire and the sound of dripping snow melting off their clothes. No one said anything. No names. No explanations. Just the eyes, red, wide, watching the door like they expected hell itself to burst through at any second. I moved through them slowly, lighting another oil lamp, placing dry blankets where I could. A woman with a torn shawl whispered thanks, but most were too exhausted to speak. They were safe for now, but only physically. The kind of fear I saw in their faces didn't melt with warmth. It was the kind that clung to your soul. It reminded me too much of a night long ago. A night I'd buried but never forgot. The soldiers had come after sunset, wearing smiles and promises. Said they needed shelter, food, water. My wife made stew. My daughter brought them firewood. I said yes when I should have said no. By dawn, the house was ash. My family gone. And all that remained was the man I became after, silent, broken, angry at ghosts. That night had taught me everything I needed to know about trust, about mercy, and about what men in uniform could become when no one was watching. So when I looked into the eyes of these women, I didn't just see fear, I saw recognition. They'd seen the same kind of evil. They'd lost the same way. And they were running not just for their lives, but for what was left of their dignity. The woman who'd spoken last, her eyes were different, sharper. She wasn't just scared. She was calculating, watching me as much as I watched her. She sat by the fire now, holding a cloth to the side of her face. Blood had dried on her cheek. Her dress was torn, but she carried herself like someone who refused to break. She didn't say anything more about him. But I knew something now. Whoever he was, she'd rather face a storm that could freeze her to death than be caught by him again. And that told me everything I needed to know. I stood by the window for a long time, staring into the blizzard, not really seeing it. My hand rested on the cold iron bar of the door, like muscle memory hadn't caught up with the fact I'd already opened it. They were here now, inside. Soaking wet, half-frozen, some injured. The smell of blood and pine needles filled the cabin. But it wasn't the weather that made my stomach twist. It was what chased them. I'd sworn never to let strangers past my fence line again. I'd built this life to be small, invisible. No more risks, no more trust, just peace and survival. But peace was already broken. And survival? That wasn't guaranteed anymore. She finally spoke again. He's coming. The one who burned our camp. The one who killed the men and took what he wanted from the rest of us. Her voice didn't tremble. That scared me more than if she had cried. You let us stay, she said. You die with us. She wasn't threatening me. She was warning me. I let you stay, I replied, because I couldn't leave you out there to die. She looked at me carefully. That's not reason enough. No, I said, my voice low. But it's the only one I've got. The fire popped. Snow tapped at the window in soft rhythms. Somewhere behind me, the baby whimpered and a woman hushed it gently. I'd spent a decade preparing to outlive everything. Building walls around my grief, around my guilt. But in that moment, I understood something clearly. Walls don't protect you. They just trap you with your ghosts. I wasn't going to be a coward again. If he came, I'd meet him face to face. And if I died for it, so be it. At least this time I'd fall standing. She waited until the others were asleep or at least pretending to be. The baby had stopped crying. The storm outside had softened into a gentle wind brushing snow off the roof. Only the fire spoke now, crackling softly. She moved closer, sat on the floor near the hearth. Her shadow stretched across the room, long and bent, but her posture stayed tall. I handed her a tin cup of warm water. She took it but didn't drink. My name is Alara, she said. I nodded. These women, they're not my blood, not all of them. Some I knew from my village. Others we picked up along the way. Survivors. We were many more once. Her eyes drifted to the firelight as if trying to pull warmth from memory. He came through the southern valley last month. Called himself Sheriff Harrow. Wore a badge, had soldiers. Said he was hunting horse thieves. We didn't steal anything. We didn't even have horses. I stayed quiet. Let her speak. They burned the men first. Said it was justice. Then they searched the homes, took food, jewelry, anything they could carry. Said we were lucky to be spared. But then they came back. She paused. Her fingers tightened around the tin cup. That second time they didn't want our things. They wanted silence. To erase what they'd done. The ones who cried out were the first to go. I could hear it in her voice. Not just pain, control. She'd said these words before. Rehearsed them. Probably to convince others to keep moving, to survive, to believe there was still reason to run. We hid in the hills for days. Moved at night. Picked up others. Broken women with swollen faces and stories worse than mine. No food, no shelter. Just the idea that somewhere ahead, someone might still give a damn. She finally looked at me. Then we saw the smoke from your chimney. The fire popped again. I didn't flinch. What does he want now? I asked. Silence, she answered. The same as before. He can't afford witnesses. There's no law up here but him. If we live, he doesn't. I studied her face. She was young, maybe 30, but her eyes were twice that age. And what do you want? I asked. To live, she said softly. but not on my knees. She stood, wrapping the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Thank you for opening the door. She walked back toward the others and I stayed staring at the fire. I had invited a storm into my cabin. And now I had to decide whether I'd face it or let it blow everything away. The first sound came just before dawn. Not a lot at once. Just one set, circling wide around the ridge like a scout testing the edges of silence. I put out the fire, fast and quiet. Smoke would be a signal, and signals meant death. I stepped outside just far enough to scan the tree line. The wind had stilled. The snow was softer now, barely falling. But it was brightening, meaning the shadows were fading. So was our protection. The cold bit through my shirt, but I didn't care. I crouched near the shed and listened. Then I heard them. Low voices. Several. No shouting. No laughter. No camp songs. These weren't travelers. They were moving like men with orders. I slipped back inside and bolted the door. Ilara was already up, eyes sharp. They're here, I said. She nodded once. No panic. No fear. Just confirmation of something she'd already expected. How many? She asked. Hard to tell. I guess 6, maybe more. They're moving in formation. Quiet. Experienced. She pressed her fingers to her temple and whispered something to one of the women. Like clockwork, 2 others began checking their belongings, wrapping what little they had in cloth and twine. Not for running. For hiding. They'll flank the house, I said. Try to cut off exits. They don't want a chase. They're not here for a chase, Ilara said. They're here to erase us. I didn't argue. Instead, I walked to the wall, lifted the old floorboard near the hearth, and pulled out the box I hadn't touched in 10 years. Inside, 1 loaded Colt revolver, a box of ammo, a folded map, and a key to a cellar no one knew existed. I turned to her. We might have one advantage, I said. But it won't matter if they think we're just going to sit and pray. She looked at the weapon, then at me. They think we're weak, she said. I nodded. Let's prove them wrong. We were ready. Or as ready as you can be when death's already circling your roof. The women moved like shadows, quiet, practiced. They didn't speak unless necessary. Ilara had handed out knives, even a small axe someone had carried from a burned village. I showed her the trapdoor beneath the kitchen floor, tight and dark, but safe enough to hide a few if things went south. Then came the sound that froze everyone in place. A baby's cry. But not the one inside the cabin. This was outside. Distant. Muffled by snow and trees, but real. The women stared at each other. The youngest, who held our baby, shook her head. She's asleep, she whispered. Ilara and I locked eyes. We both heard it. Another child. Outside. It's a trick, one woman hissed. They're using a child to draw us out. Or it's not, I said. And there's a baby out there who didn't ask to be part of this. The room went silent. Ilara stepped toward the door. We can't risk everything for one cry. I know, I said. But can we live with ourselves if we do nothing? Another cry. This one weaker. Maybe from the cold. Maybe from fear. The kind of sound that doesn't lie. We blow the cellar, they drown, Ilara reminded me. If there's a child down there, I know. I looked down at the key in my hand, the one that unlocked the path to our last resort, flooding the valley. It had seemed like the only solution. Until now. She stepped close. What do you want to do? I exhaled slowly. We don't blow the dam. Not yet. First we find that child. If this is real, we get them out. And if it's bait? Then I'll take that risk. Because some lines, once crossed, turn you into the thing you're fighting. And I'd already come too far to go back. We didn't have numbers. We didn't have training. What we had was desperation, grit, and terrain that I knew better than the back of my hand. I pulled out the old map I kept in the floorboard, spread it on the table, and lit a lantern low. The cabin sat on a rise, surrounded by thick forest and gullies that funneled movement. In the dark, it gave us a fighting chance. They'll come from the west, I said, drawing a line with my finger. Fastest route. But the snow will slow their horses. Ilara leaned in. You said there's a back trail? Steep and narrow. If we go down it quiet, we can circle around without being seen. She nodded, then looked at the women. Split into 2 teams. One with me at the front, make noise, draw attention. The other with him, go silent, get the child. They listened without hesitation. No arguments. No fear on their faces anymore. Just focus. I handed out traps, old bear clamps I'd sharpened myself. We rigged them outside the windows behind the woodpile, near the path where soldiers would try to sneak. Tripwires too, linked to tin cans and scrap metal. Crude alarms, but they'd work. If we don't stop them here, I said, they won't stop chasing you. Ilara nodded. Then we don't let them leave. She placed a hand on the youngest girl's shoulder, the one still holding our baby. You hide. No matter what happens. The girl clutched the child tighter, her face set. We tied lanterns near the windows to mimic silhouettes, set broken furniture behind overturned tables to fake barricades. From the outside, we'd look like a group waiting to die. But inside, we were sharpening blades. We weren't just defending a house. We were preparing to rewrite the ending. They came just after nightfall. No horns. No shouting. Just the soft crunch of boots on snow and the whisper of leather saddles creaking. From the dark tree line, figures emerged, shadows wrapped in black coats, rifles slung low, eyes searching for weakness. We were already in place. Ilara crouched near the front door, blade in hand. 3 women were hidden near the back windows, breath slow, eyes hard. I waited on the side trail with 2 others, the bear traps laid, the snow covering our prints. A lantern flickered in the front window. A decoy. From the trees, I saw the lead man give a hand signal. 5 broke off toward the front, 3 flanked the sides. Exactly as we hoped. I gave Ilara the signal, 1 sharp whistle like a winter bird. She moved first. A crash. A shout. Gunfire cracked the silence like thunder. The front team took the bait, busting through the door into empty space. The shadows that waited there weren't helpless. They were fury made flesh. Screams followed, short and ugly. On our side, the flanking team moved faster than expected. 1 tripped the wire and went down hard, screaming as metal pierced his leg. Another raised his rifle, until the woman beside me sank a hatchet into his collarbone. I moved to the wagon where we'd heard the child. She was there. A baby girl, wrapped tight, crying now from the sound, not the cold. Beside her, a woman lay, young, pale, unconscious but breathing. Got her. I shouted. Behind us, the last soldier turned to run, but Ilara was already there. She moved like wind, silent and sudden. Her blade met his throat with practiced ease. He dropped without a sound. The baby kept crying. I held her against my chest as I carried her back up the trail, heart hammering harder than it had in years. By the time we reached the house, the snow was red. 3 of theirs escaped. The rest didn't. We'd lost 1 woman, older, kind, the one who had given me tea the night before. She lay near the fireplace, eyes open to the ceiling, as if watching peace finally return. Ilara closed her eyes gently, whispering something I didn't understand. Outside, the storm had passed. But the silence it left behind was louder than any battle. We'd won. But the price always comes later.